when I was watching that interview that you did with Elon Musk, I look at the comments and I look at the comments on YouTube and they're all just like extremely pro Elon. And this is posted on your account and same as X. I realized the same response on X. And then I went to your interview with Brian Tyler Cohen. Is that his name? And all of the comments in there were like, Don really like owned Elon. And it's really surprising to me how two people can watch the exact same thing, no spins on it whatsoever, and draft up two completely different opinions on it.
Well, I think that's, I did not see, I don't really read the comments that much on X, but the ones that I did read were very positive. I've only gotten positive feedback. The only people that I've gotten, negative feedback from are sort of, I call them the business bros or like the Elon sycophants or people who are conservative and who are pretending not to be conservative because, I guess, I'm a product of traditional media. And so they have it out for me in a certain sense. But for anyone to watch that interview and to ask someone about public statements that they made just to get a sense of what they meant, I don't see how anybody can say that that was a gotcha interview or a biased interview. It was simply, you said this about DEI. What did you mean by it? I meant this. Okay, there's no data, information or data or whatever, nothing to back it up. Why do you say it? Well, I don't know. I just kind of want to say it. Or I don't want it to happen. It would be awful if it did happen, but that doesn't make sense because I could say, well, man, it would be terrible if your hair turned purple. And you'd say, well, why are you saying that? I'm just saying because it would be terrible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it would just be terrible. Why say it? There's a reason that you're saying it. And if you're going to put it out there, then it should at least be true.
In your defense, what I loved was the fact that you asked very, very, very hard questions. I think that's great.
You thought those questions were hard?
I thought they were hard.
That was
you asked him about like, does he think he could not get government clearance because of his prescribed?
How is that hard?
I feel like that's a very personal question.
He's the one who talked about his ketamine use. I didn't talk.
No, agreed.
I wouldn't have brought it up if he hadn't discussed it.
True.
And so he has Starlink. He's got Tesla. He's got X. He's got there's another company that he has. That's a natural, easy question.
Do you think that you should have gone harder in that interview?
No, I don't think I should have gone harder because I didn't want it to be gotcha. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to understand why he said these things. That's it. If you admit that you are doing ketamine and you have government contracts and you have security clearances, did you ever think about that? That's not a hard question.
I think for most people, they think of ketamine and I think of some like dude in an alley ODing on it versus
no one is in an alley ODing on ketamine. People
I don't know.
People are ketamine.
We're not ketamine experts.
No, people are like it's a club drug. Like most people think of it as a club drug. Yeah.
I guess okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I sound like an idiot.
No,
you don't. But he explained it why he uses it, and I thought that was a great answer. And so, but that's what I was kind of looking for, like, why do you use ketamine? Why did you say that? And I knew that he talked about depression, but he did not get to that until the last part of the question. And I said, well, I've suffered from depression as well. I've had guided drug therapy. So, okay, that's great. That was like a point where we met on, but he didn't hear that. But I don't think that's a hard question.
From my perspective as a viewer, I thought you asked hard questions, but I think that's good. Like,
but it's so weird that you think that because most people are like, whoa, that was softball. Like the people I hear from are like, that was such easy questions. Like, I've seen you interview people. Had he never?
I love it. So do you think we should turn it up on here and ask harder questions?
Of course. I mean, you're asking me hard questions now. You don't think the questions you're asking me are hard? You asked me, why did I get fired? I answered you.
I think they're somewhat hard. I feel like that's kind of the obvious question. You know what I mean?
Same. If you had a government contract and a government clearance, right? Mm-hmm. And you did drugs, I would say to you, hey, did you ever think about that?
I think that's great. It's funny. Before this interview, we were talking. We're like, he can either respond one of two ways. One way is that, because we thought these were pretty hard questions and we still have some more, but one way is he hears these questions and he, as a journalist himself, would be like, I appreciate these guys asking the hard questions. The other way is he sees us like poking and maybe pushing him into a certain corner and then he doesn't like it.
Yeah. And then I get up and leave or I get mad. Or then I cancel your contract.
True. Yeah.
Speaking of canceling the contract, I'm so curious, what led up to the initial offer of, potentially getting a deal with
how'd that conversation go?
He asked you personally?
No, he put it on. Yeah. Well, when we spoke personally, but he also asked me, he tweeted a couple times, Don Lemon should join this platform. Rachel Maddow should join this platform. Don Lemon should be doing what Tucker's doing on this platform. It would be great if you can come on this platform. And so, okay, I had conversation with him. He not hired me because it was just a content deal, but he did a deal with me because of the work that I did on CNN. That's what I've been known for the last 17 years. I do hard interviews. I ask Democrats hard questions. I ask Republicans hard questions. I asked the White House press secretary about Biden's age before anybody did. I asked Donald Trump if he was a racist. Like, you're supposed to hold people's feet to the fire. You're supposed to hold truth to power without fear or favor to everyone. That's from the president of the United States to Elon Musk to, the city councilman or to a convict. You sit there and you ask questions. And just because I ask a question about something that you said about DEI or something that you said about anything, it doesn't mean that I agree or disagree with what you said. I'm asking a question. That's what journalists do. There are things about DEI that I don't agree with, but I'm not the subject of the interview. And so, but people think, oh my God, you're biased. You must be for everything for DEI because you're Black, because you're gay. No, I'm a journalist, so I'm asking you questions.
Do you think it would have gone a different way had you had 3 hours to interview him and could have shared some of your own experiences? Because I would have loved to have seen that 2 hours long, 3 hours long, where it's more of a dialogue of you saying, like, here's what I disagree with about DEI and here's what I think, and more of like a discussion like this, where like sometimes we've found that when we have short interviews, we have to be so quick and we can't share. Like,
there's a lot of nuance and context to everything.
But we had an hour. They wanted a minimum of an hour. I would have gone 2 or 3 hours. I would have gone out afterwards and had a beer with him.
Yeah.
But we never got to that point because he became upset. Now, as you said, in this interview, I could either get upset or I can answer your questions. And so I choose to answer your questions and not become upset. And if I can't answer it, that's on me, not on the interviewer.
I would like to say, in Elon's defense, also, like, coming from the viewer's perspective and someone that's done this for a while now, what I noticed was it seems as though he was trying to answer your questions. And I thought he did so in a decent way, but there was some weird miscommunication.
I actually thought he did well. But I don't think he was hearing. I think we were talking past each other.
I agree.
And I thought, I was like, wow, that was a perfectly good answer.
But it didn't seem that way because also it seemed like he was repeating himself several times. And it seems like he was saying, no, if we have DEI, then we're hiring based off of something other than pure merit and ability and skills, which is the only thing that you should be judging a person off of. And it seemed like that was something where you're like, okay, well, no, data is showing, that DEI is doing that. And he says, yeah, but I don't want it to. I want to prevent this from happening. And it doesn't seem like there was a full understanding. I thought he had great answers. And I thought you had good questions.
Well, I also think it's how you feel about Elon. And I think it's also your perspective on life. And I think that if you are a person who is part of the underserved community in this country, you will read Elon's tweets about DEI and they will probably be offensive to you. Ultimately, what you're saying is that women and people of color are less skilled. And if they are, and they should not have these jobs, that's insulting to a huge portion of this country. Should it be on merit? Absolutely. Are people of color, do they have merit to be able to have those jobs? Absolutely. I would say that they have to be better and smarter than the white guys. Basically, pilots are all white men. I think they have to be better and smarter. I think that you have a different perspective because you're a white guy in this country. So you pretty much you can go through life and go through America or whatever, live your life in America and pretty much do whatever you want. That's just how the system works. The system is built for you. The system is not built for women. The system was not built for people of color. You have a different perspective on it. Like, yeah, of course it should be merit, but it's not all merit. It's people who have privilege who are getting jobs before people who don't have privilege. It's people who are allowed to get into colleges because they're legacies. And who's that? That's mostly white people. Okay, you're upset because Black people are now getting into Ivy League schools. Well, woohoo, it's about time.
In fairness, I don't think that, I hope nobody's upset that Black people are getting into Ivy League schools.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there are people out there that hold that opinion.
And they blame it on DEI.
But there are studies that have shown that there are different requirements in merit to get into these colleges.
No, there aren't. There aren't studies that show that.
Like difference in SAT scores for the average.
I don't think people are changing standards. If you look at Duke released a statement saying Elon is wrong, Ben Shapiro is wrong. We're not changing our standards or lowering our standards for medical students based on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think people may reassess what they think their values are or what they think they should be doing. But what you're going to learn as an undergraduate or a medical student is going to be the same, and the requirements are going to be the same. But there are no studies that show that.
And that's all great. I think everyone should obviously be learning, and everyone should have the same opportunity.
But I have to be honest with you. It's easier for you to say that because of who you are.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.